Filmed in front of a studio audience in San Diego, California, I'm Richard Brevik, and this is Expose UX,
a new startup competition.
Taleo is a smart connected device that sits underneath Kitty litter box.
Beacon is an easy way to find events that fit your schedule.
Judged on user experience, not their business plan.
I think we have a lot of recommendations.
Really important to differentiate.
When it is a white label app, doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a vanilla design.
Are they speaking with their users?
Dig deeper into owners' behaviors, what they need, how they need to be notified.
Are they following good design patterns?
When you hide something, it kind of fades. Maybe it should hide.
Does their UX match their business objectives?
Many of the design elements are the same. So if you lose somebody in the app, they can't make a final decision.
The winner receives tickets to Big Design Conference, Balsamic Mockups, a wireframing tool that's like sketching on a whiteboard, and Proto.io, a tool for fully interactive, high-fidelity prototypes. The judges are
David Penarelli is a senior UX designer for Renovate America. Chris Angel is founder and strategist of Hopscotch Labs, and Chad Martin is a senior designer for HP. The startups are Get Fresh Baked with Jeff Franken, O-Connect with Raj Oswal, Taleo with Alex Trainer, and Beacon with Eric Gaze. Presented by Big Design Events and filmed on location at UC San Diego in partnership with their design lab. Our first startup is Get Fresh Baked. Jeff, you'll have 30 seconds for your elevator pitch. Are you ready?
Yes.
And start.
GetFreshBaked.com is a network of local artisan bakers who deliver fresh cookies and other high-quality baked goods on demand.
Thank you. You'll have 2 minutes for your demo. Are you ready?
Yes.
And go.
Okay, so GetFreshBaked.com is a mobile responsive website, and there you can see, here's the landing page here. You go to the nav bar and you can see your various pages. But when you go to the landing page, you automatically see what the website is about, and you can quickly navigate to find nearby bakers. When you select Find Nearby Bakers, it runs a distance query on the GPS of your device and shows you nearby bakers where you can select Order Now from one of the bakers and then continue through the checkout screen. So you can see the seller, how far away they are, the location, the estimated delivery time. You enter the quantity that you want to order, your name, phone number, and pay with card, and it fires off a Stripe Connect checkout screen. And the page, you can also go down to the bottom, you can connect to social media, and you can go to the About page and learn more about how it works from the consumer side and from the seller side. And say you have a birthday party, or you're a real estate agent and you want fresh cookies delivered to some scheduled event, you can select in the nav bar, you can select a scheduled delivery, enter the delivery information, the date and time of your event, and it'll again run that distance query and find bakers who are open for business and can deliver to that event.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for Get Fresh Baked. Experts, do you have any recommendations?
Why, yes, I do. Great presentation, great product. I'm really intrigued by it. I would recommend a few things. One, it just really describes getting kind of back to basics with e-commerce, so that if somebody is viewing a baker, they look at what that baker's all about. But when they go into the transaction, they're in the transaction. Like, kind of split those things out so that they can have a clear and focused transaction. You don't necessarily want somebody using the page to get distracted in either direction while they're trying to make a decision. I would also recommend providing some way for the person using it to express their preference of what they're looking for. So for instance, if I have a peanut allergy or something, I want to be sure to flag that on the way in as I'm contacting the baker so that we can start the conversation. The baker and I could start the conversation off on the right foot.
I think it's amazing that you've come up with a solution for local bakers, people who are making stuff out of their homes. I also think that you've identified two really great user audiences, so the realtors as well as the university college students. You really need to look into those audiences and do a deep dive into what are their needs, when do they have those needs, and how might you support them with your app. It sounds like you've done some really great work identifying these consumption moments and build on those. Really use those to develop your app and figure out where you're going with it. The things where I had problems was when you're showing me too much information and I can't tell where I am and where you are in the app. Many of the photos are the same, many of the design elements are the same. So if you lose somebody in the app, they can't make a final decision.
There are a lot of things that I really like about this, just the domain name, Get Fresh Baked, pretty clear. I know you've put kind of an emphasis on cookies because that's the best-selling item, but it leaves the door open to get a lot more. Cupcakes, for example, or things of that nature. So I like that there's a clear call to action on the website as well. And there are a number of UI improvements that you can make, but I think that those are going to be easy enough to get a designer to come in and kind of help you refine the look and feel, do things like make the checkout form a little bit more streamlined. So it's super easy for people to put in their order, their preferences. I would start with a very clear visual of what people are looking for rather than sifting through the bakers first. And one thing that wasn't clear to me at first was that I think you're using the term artisan bakers, and because that's such a kind of hippy-dippy word right now, and it's getting a little overused, people don't necessarily know that means that it is the industry of people that are baking at home, that are county permitted to do this. Because when you first started talking about it, I thought, oh, well, this is another food delivery service like Postmates or Seamless, and there's a lot of competition in that market right now. But the thing that I really like about what you've done is that you found a market where these people that are baking at home can't use third parties to deliver their food. So you found an audience that has a need to get their product out to people, and you found a really unique way to do it. You're actually really providing a unique service, and the big guys like Postmates can't infringe on that. They can't take those customers away. Even though there are some UI things that I would improve, I think that you at the heart of your service have something that's really valuable.
Would you say he's hit the sweet spot?
I would not say that, but you can say that.
You mentioned an interest in going after angel investors. There's a lot of opportunity to find additional markets for this product if you go through Kickstarter. And you'll find a lot of unique individual communities that are very interested in these cottage industries and willing to invest in that and help their local community come together around these cottage industries. So use the communities that are there to build up and support the local communities to build your app. And go to them with a very specific need and a specific ask of something simple that they can invest in that is achievable and doesn't actually require a lot of dev work on your part.
Okay, thank you.
One last idea that I had was, because you're providing this service for what are frequently literally mom and pop shops that, as you had said to us earlier, really just want to be doing the baking. That's the part that they love. I think there is an opportunity here for you to provide a service to help them have a fuller web presence than just a listing among all of the stores that are out there, but a fuller ability to tell the story of these different bakeries and the people behind the bakeries. Because I think what's going to engender a lot of loyalty in your customer base is the one-on-one connection that people find with these bakers that are actually going to be driving the cookies and cupcakes and sweets to them. You're going to be doing a lot to form relationships, and I think that you can do a lot to project that personality of the baker out before people even place an order. And I think that that's going to help everybody, you, the bakers, and the people that are getting the food.
You can also build upon your brand and their brand by supporting those small cottage bakers by providing them with materials to deliver their goods. So the boxes, the ribbons, a presentation style that they wouldn't necessarily know how to build, and you can build that for them, creating an additional revenue stream into the business, as well as more brand recognition for yourself.
Thank you so much for your advice. And let's have a round of applause for Get Fresh Baked. Our next startup is OConnect. Raj, you'll have 30 seconds for your elevator pitch. Are you ready?
Yes.
And start.
Hi, my name is Raj Oswal, and I love attending conferences. The problem is that I can't find relevant talks or connect with the right folks. Imagine a Yelp-like rating system that uses predictive analytics to suggest the conferences you should attend, followed by a recommendation engine that suggests who you should connect with at a conference. That is OConnect.
Thank you. You'll now have 2 minutes for your product demo.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
And start.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just launch the app right here. And it takes me straight into the agenda view. As an attendee, I want to make this as intuitive and as easy as possible when I'm at the conference, not complicated with features. I can click on the right-hand top little person icon, and I can log in through LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter if I'm an attendee without having to worry about the organizer logging me in. As soon as I log in, it pulls in my LinkedIn data. I'm going to scroll through the agenda here, and I find here that there's things that are not relevant to me. So I'm just going to swipe right. I'm going to go hide those events. So I'm just looking for the things that are useful for me. And the things that are, I can go ahead and star those and add those to my agenda. I'm going to go ahead and click on something here, and you'll notice here that it shows me information about the conference. I can tweet. I'm able to add notes. I can send a question to the moderator, which is actually voted by the audience. And I can even download relevant files. If I go out of this view and I click on the toolbar, I can see a list of different options for myself. Let's go straight into the speaker and attendee view. This will give me a list of all the speakers and attendees to connect with. So again, we are really focusing on allowing connections within the app experience. If I select an attendee, I can read all about them, their bio, where they're from, what they do, and again, I can send questions directly to any speaker or attendee. I can also favorite an attendee of mine. If I go back out in the toolbar, you'll notice the announcement section. An organizer can send me any kind of announcement, or a marketer or sponsor can promote the event as well. So in general, you have all the basic conference features such as schedule, information, parking, scanner. We obviously share on social media, but it's really designed for the attendee and a seamless experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause. Experts, do you have any advice for OConnect?
From the app experience, I feel like you're maybe trying to do a little too much in the app in terms of the attendee experience. So I would really recommend experimenting with trimming away features. Like, how do you make the agenda as simple and clear as possible? I was missing a little bit in our view of it, of how either talks or like how individual things were recommended per se, and how the connection with other people was coming through per se in that kind of recommendation idea that was being pitched. I think it's one part technology side, one part kind of product side, but the other facet to it is the design of it, and if something is recommended, how do you surface it? How do you bring it to someone's attention, make it more engaging than something else? There's a few things that I think that could be easily resolved from a UI side, like when you hide something, it kind of fades, maybe it should hide. right? We can, there's a lot of kind of little nuances like that, but those kind of add up to an overall approach that would make the experience more engaging.
Yeah, I think you hit on the complexity issue. That was something that stood out to me. Just looking at the sidebar, and I know you talked about wanting to pare that down a little bit because it can be kind of a little bit overwhelming to see all of those options. I don't know exactly how you solve that offhand. You talked about value for the conference attendee. You might think about it in terms of before, during, and after as far as the value that you get, because without using those words, you talked about the different ways that you provide value without that clear of a message of exactly how people are doing it, because you've got a lot from overall conference discovery to now I'm participating in this one conference and then I'm going to get recommendations also. I don't know if there's recommendations for afterwards, but I think there are a number of ways, even just in, let's say, the agenda list view, to simplify the view, make it a little bit easier to use a designy term, reduce the cognitive load, so people don't have to think about as much. They just scan the headline and then they can expose a little bit more information as they're going along. One of the things I would really like to see is a little bit more personality in the app as well. I think you've got some good fundamentals here, but a white labeled app, when it is a white label app, doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a vanilla design. I think you can put a lot of not really like outstanding personality, but really subtle design cues in there that are going to improve just the feel, whether this is being used for a life sciences conference or a design conference. I think you've got a really good foundation here, but the use of it is something that I would want to feel a little bit more fluid, that has just a touch more personality to it.
Personality would help. I think what you've got is an app that has basic table stakes. You have to be able to understand what is the agenda, where do I go. You also have a buyer who is purposely trying to help their attendees have a fantastic event. The problem is you've got multiple apps here, and it feels like you haven't really nailed the value proposition for the attendee. So going out, interviewing those attendees, figuring out why would they even use this app, what would benefit them right now, the beginning, before they get there, when they're at the event, and then at home. A lot of times you learn a lot of great things at these events, but you can't use anything in the app later on because it's stuck behind a firewall. And you can't access those people that you met because they're stuck behind a firewall. So help attendees really enjoy your app, use your app to the most, and then export that information or somehow find out what they would use from that app later on to better engage with the organization that started their conversation in the first place.
The backbone is really strong, and I think, again, it's more about kind of expanding, in one way, expanding the vision before, during, and after, like giving the idea of the timeline of the experience, I think is really critical. Maybe could be more reflected better. On the other hand, I also think that it's a matter of, in each of those stages, how do you pare it down to what is most valuable? Because when you get down to that valuable nugget, again, you're not only solving the problem for the attendee, you're making it valuable for the sponsor, streamlining it for the organizer, and kind of covering all those bases.
And remembering, like, you have multiple users here, and each of them have a unique set of needs and very unique purposes for using the app. There's huge potential to integrate a lot of the stuff that the speakers are doing right into the app or into the experience itself. All of that helps build a much better experience, builds the value to the conference, as well as supports the overall user experience.
Yeah, it just kind of comes to mind, talking about the different audiences that you have here, that this is kind of like Google's overall strategy, where they're giving us free services like Gmail that are great, but really their customer are advertisers. And so you might need to frame things that way. Make an incredible app for the conference attendees, but know that your actual customer is the people that are paying you for the app.
Experts, thank you for your feedback. Let's have a round of applause for O Connect. Raj, thank you. Our next startup is Taleo. Alex, you'll have 30 seconds for your elevator pitch. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Start.
Cats are secretive and hide signs of illness. Veterinarians recommend that we track our cats' weight and litter box behavior on a daily basis. Our product Taleo does just that. Taleo is a smart connected device that sits underneath kitty litter box and is capable of detecting signs of more than 25 different diseases, such as cancer, diabetes, urinary disease, kidney disease, and more. Taleo alerts the user via alert in the mobile app. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll have 2 minutes for your product demo. And start.
Thanks. So here's our mobile app. I'm starting it. We're landing on a dashboard. What you see here is the actual user account. It happens to be our very first beta tester. He has 3 cats. They're all black. He and his wife are not capable of distinguishing between them, and yet Taleo can. As you can see, it tracks seamlessly data of all 3 cats. Also below there, if I scroll a little bit down, there are 2 devices. So he has 2 litter boxes and 2 devices. So let's dive into data of 1 cat here in the middle. So what you see here, we can chart cat's weight. Right now, you're seeing cat's weight history over the last week. I'm showing you now over the last month and over the last year. Going back here, we can also see daily litter box visits. As you can see on average, it also shows the average number 2.5 visits per day, and so on. Also, very important number is how much waste can deposit in a box on a daily basis, as you can see it over there. Now let's dive into, so the next tab is statistics. We can see statistics on cat's weight, box visits, waste, and time between visits, which are all very important. The most important part here is activity tab. On activity tab here, you can see alerts. I specifically generated some alerts for you to demonstrate them. You tap on an alert, you can call your veterinarian right from there. As you can see, I'm calling this dummy number. You can go back and you can generate a report. So right now in real time, I'm generating a vet report here that can be sent as a PDF file attachment to your vet, so the vet can recommend what to do, to come to the office or not. That's in a nutshell the app. Thank you.
Experts, do you have any recommendations?
I think we have a lot of recommendations. At first, I was a bit stunned and speechless hearing that you had kind of a poop product, and I thought, if this thing can detect a cat's cancer, if I pooped in it, would it be able to tell? I mean, this is the first thing that I thought of, and so I say that because once you explained it at a deeper level and you started to tell the story behind it, I began to understand that this is not about, say, cancer detection, but a tool that helps to diagnose potential issues. The thing that struck me about your pitch was the poop angle, and I've got a 2-year-old, so I'm very comfortable with poop. But the poop angle kind of throws people off. They don't know what to think exactly in the beginning. But when you talk in depth about this, you have a story to tell. You have your own personal story of why you did this, and you have the story also of how this thing functions from a scientific and functional level. And I think both of those things are incredibly important to express to people, because people are going to hear your pitch and they're going to be interested because they care about their animals, but they're not going to believe that it does what you say it does. But after talking about the data and the science of it, it does what you say it's going to do.
Yeah, I think it's all about telling that story. It's a complicated story. And importantly, there's three characters in this story. There's the owner, the cat, and the vet. I think you've done an amazing job of solving the problem for the vet, right? So if you're a pet owner, you take your cat or dog or whatever you have, you take your cat into the vet, and the vet says, is your cat eating normally? How about this? Is it going to the litter box? What is happening? And you're like, I don't know, I'm at work all day. I don't know, whatever's happening. You've filled that incredible gap there. But the key is that for the owner, you have this alert structure, And it's going to be really important to differentiate between a normal event, shall we say, and an alert. An alert being some sign that there's an aberration, a sign that your cat could be at risk based on the data. So splitting out that kind of notification is really going to be critical to, again, telling the story that the owner is going to have, and then giving the owner the control to maybe not get a text when their cat uses the litter box. Giving them the control over how they take in that story as well.
There were aspects of kitten behavior that your device was able to identify that owners didn't know about. You were able to identify behaviors in the owner's own patterns, the way in which they're petting the cat, that they don't necessarily recognize the differences from day to day because their interpretive values are set based on the last experience they had with the cat. So those types of things that you're identifying are really incredibly helpful when you're developing this product. I would say go in, dig deeper into owners' behaviors, what they need, how they need to be notified, which types of things is too much information. Because if you're alerting them to a weight loss that indicates they may have cancer, or they may have bathroom, something that's curable, you really need to moderate that conversation with the owner so they're not freaking out all day, rushing home when it's not necessary.
Yeah, the last thing you want is like a hypochondriac cat.
Yeah. Or a parent. In general, I love that you're doing a lot of research on the cats themselves. I love that you've got he mentioned that you made over 1,000 of these units, 24 are in use. They've been in use for some months now. And that the data is coming back in. You're identifying new behaviors, new engagements, new things that the vets are really interested in. Make sure that you're always in contact with those vets. You're reviewing the data with them, finding out what works, what doesn't work. Do the same though with your users, with the parents of the cats. Find out, when you see this information, what does that entail? What information is there? There are about 2 or 3 different things that I would like you to do. You've got some use cases and you've described them, but you haven't put them together or strung them together in a strong case. So do that. Your user flow, it needs to be looked at. Make sure that you're evaluating it for speed for what the user actually needs to accomplish and why. And then I saw some language issues. So definitely have a content strategist take a look and a writer take a look at this and evaluate it for the type of wording that you're using, because those poop jokes could provide all of the content that you need and make it a fun app and a fun way of engaging with it.
You have to be lighthearted about it. Yeah.
It's poop.
But it's serious business too.
Well, with that, experts, thank you so much, and let's have a round of applause for Taleo. Thank you, Alex. Our final startup is Beacon. Eric, you'll have 30 seconds for your elevator pitch. Are you ready?
Yes.
And start.
Okay. Beacon is an easy way to find events that fit your schedule. What used to take more than an hour, you can now do in less than a minute.
7 seconds. Wow.
A little nervous.
No, that's great.
Okay.
And 2 minutes for your demo. You
Okay.
ready?
Yep.
And start.
Okay. So here's how it works. We'll scroll down on the landing page. Businesses enter their events for free. You can choose where and what you want to see and when, and then you explore your options. We just click the check it out page and we come in. It's an interactive map, and within any map, there's a key. Ours is up here in the top left. Currently it's set to 16 miles. The time is set to all day, and it's set to today's date. The type of place we're looking at right now is bars and food, but you can set it to a variety of different things. And then you can also sort by different types of events going on. From here, you just have the results on the left-hand sidebar, and you scroll through and see what's happening. D Street's got trivia night. Mr. Peabody's has a couple bands playing. And then you can see what's happening around here. If you're looking for happy hours, you just go into savings and click. If you find something you like, you can click this flyaway. You can save the business to a list so you don't have to filter through all the other stuff that you don't like. You can save the event. There's a Get Me There button, which lets you know if there's tickets required, reservations required, or a ride. If you need a ride, we give you directions, taxi numbers, Uber or Lyft links. That's the basic part of it. There's the business profile, where you can find out more about them, any of their social media links, do some research, as well as find out more events that they have coming up. That's the long and short of it.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for Beacon.
Thank you.
Experts, do you have any recommendations for Beacon?
So I'll kick off. So you started off by talking about events that fit in your schedule. And so I'm thinking in my head, okay, it's Wednesday. I'm going to meet up with a friend. I want to get together after work and somewhere close to my office. And it would be, I was thinking, it would be great to see this kind of walked through in that kind of story, right? But it goes kind of beyond just the pitch of it. It's that if that's kind of the way that the experience itself could be built. If as someone who uses it, I've told it a location, or not only shown a location, but I said this is a point of interest, and near here, and today, or this evening, or this afternoon, and start to build that. I think that if you're going to start to tap into people's schedules, people's preferences, you'll really have to take into account how a person experiences this for the first time.
Yeah.
The kind of proposed test would be, what's the littlest amount of information you can capture to provide the most valuable recommendation? It's not easy. It's a real challenge, but that's really the key, because what you really have here is a conversation where a person is coming here and they're saying, I want to go out to get a drink. And Beacon is saying, hey, I know a great place to go get a drink. Why don't you try over here? And the person is saying, that's a little too far away. And Beacon says, oh, this other place is great. So thinking of it in that kind of dialogue or conversation, that there's a give and take of information, can kind of frame up how someone interacts with it a little bit. It's kind of a conversational angle that I'd recommend.
Yeah, I get that.
I would agree. Metaphors are a great thing to design around and with. If you can understand or use this conversation metaphor within your design process, you can identify what are those typical needs within a conversation, how do conversations happen, and really dig into those processes, understanding how does power come into play, how does sharing come into play, what are those social pieces that are really important to a conversation that you can build around and really make this engine tick. Because right now, what you've got is a nice map. It's got some interesting characteristics, but how is it different from anything else out there? Where is the value?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. What is the differentiator here? I think that still needs a little bit of work. Talking about how, I love that you're showing this at such an early stage for feedback and growth and improvement, because I think you're going to have to pick a direction and really charge into it, and then do not user testing, but testing with different people that are the right audience for this. And don't necessarily do it all yourself. Get a third party to do it so that they're unbiased and they're not going to hurt that person's feelings, but they're going to hurt your own in a good way, so that you can improve your own product. Because I think you're going to find a lot more insights when people feel a freedom to be completely frank and honest with what they're saying. From a UI standpoint, I think that there's a few areas where you can improve things, because you're drilling down to more and more information on this. Wherever you can, and I've seen this in several websites, simplify the form design. If there's an option where you choose the option and then you click a submit button, more or less, just let them choose the option and then on the fly update the information. So they're moving as quickly through the app and they're solidifying their choices and narrowing things down as quickly as they can.
Gotcha.
So there's some issues with user flow, as you were saying, with forms. Definitely look into that. Narrowing in on a specific user and use case will be important. Right now, you're covering bars, you're covering parks. Whose need is greatest? Where is their pain? Focus in on that pain right now and build from there.
Yeah, or support niche audiences. Like you talked about it being kid-friendly. I think that's something that isn't necessarily highlighted in other places. And you could find small but loyal audiences that would really get a lot of use out of this that are not being served by the other places that are out there.
Yeah, just to echo that, there's again on that kind of first time experience can help build that, right? So I'm looking for kid friendly stuff, or I'm looking for date night, no kids, really clear on that. One other suggestion I had, because you are location based, and because a lot of planning sort of happens, in between the rest of our lives. I would recommend really doubling down on mobile and on the mobile experience, and like really examine this as through the lens of mobile. I know that this is responsive, but I think that the first place I would improve and solve a lot of these problems, I would really recommend just taking mobile head on, even so far as to say it's mobile only until further notice. I mean, go ahead and take the plunge, because that mobile experience is not going away. So I would really double down on that.
Okay.
I liked what you had said previously about having pre-configured lists, because as it is now, if somebody comes in here from scratch with no boxes checked, then there's a lot of work for them to understand the interface and go through and start to pick things out. If you have partnerships with people that provide you with lists, and these are trusted sources, whether it's a person, a brand, different companies, then I think that gives people a really quick entry in to see what's going on, so that people can come in and with one tap, they can see exactly what you're providing with them and then start remixing things, rather than coming out of the gate with having to set everything up themselves.
Yeah, I like that.
Experts, thank you for your feedback. Let's have a round of applause for Beacon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. The experts will now choose a winner. They're looking for the startup with the best user experience. Experts, thank you. Experts, welcome back. Have you made your decision?
We have. After thinking about it long and hard, it was not an easy decision, but we have made our final selection. And the winner is Taleo.
Alex, please step forward. Chad, what influenced your decision?
I think at the core of it, even though the experience is not fully formed, we saw evidence of the full process, from starting with a need, going and doing research, building prototypes after prototypes, talking to lots of different people, refining things over time, and at the heart of it, finding that need that people have. And I think that as you refine the story, it's going to become an even more compelling product.
Chris, what about you?
You did find that really compelling problem, and you were able to articulate it. You were able to find the resources that you needed to make sure that you were on to something right, that it was a real problem, and you were able to identify who it was a problem for. That's critical for any really good product, any good service, and you've set about solving it with a solution that works and actually is giving you much more information than you ever expected. So, kudos.
And David?
When it really came down to it, today's conversation is about UX process. It's about understanding people. It's about understanding a problem, working through that problem, and we think that Taleo has been doing an amazing job.
Experts, thank you for your time and your valuable feedback. And to the other startups, I just want to say, take the recommendations you've received tonight and use them to improve your products and grow your startups. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for all of the startups. From San Diego, California, this has been Expose UX.